Hello there, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Moe Nawaz and Ben Gay with the second chapter of Think and Grow Rich Applied. The second chapter itself is going to be focused on faith. Some might even say fate rather than faith. Ben, what have you got to say about faith regarding Napoleon Hill's version in chapter 2?
I have lots of it. And I've learned to trust it, which is something I didn't do for many years, largely thanks to Dr. Hill in our personal one-on-one meetings and conversations and so on. I learned the value of faith. And you and I believe, have different religions, but the concept I find is pretty much the same no matter which religion you're in or practice or believe in or what have you. There's something bigger going on than all of us. There's a minister and a rabbi that used to travel around the United States, at least, holding meetings, and people said to them, how can you work together and be friends when you believe in two entirely different concepts, in particular about Jesus? One was a Christian, the other one was a Jew. And they said, here's how we've worked that out. When we get to heaven, we're going to say to Jesus, hey, were you down there before? And therefore, the Jewish guy and the Christian guy's answer to their questions will be handled. And I thought that was pretty ingenious, because the truth is none of us really know. But I found that for me, in living a faith-filled life, what could be the worst that could happen? Let's say I'm wrong, but I lead a better life throughout my life as a result. And we get to the end, turns out what I thought wasn't true, or what you thought wasn't true, or what have you. Doesn't change the fact that you've led a much better life. It's hard for me to pray to God every morning to make me a better, stronger, kinder person filled with gratitude. It's hard for me to pray that and then go be a jackass all day long. So my prayers help keep me in line, and I hope I'm right. And if so, it'll be glorious. And if not, it was more glorious here on earth.
Okay, excellent. I think faith also implies faith in yourself, in oneself.
Sure.
So it's having the faith combined with the confidence gives you greater faith in yourself, greater confidence in yourself. So faith is in our Creator, in our Maker, whether one believes in whatever religion, or whether it's atheism or whatever. At the end of the day, everybody believes that there is a Creator of some form or other. So from that sort of, excuse me, turn that off. Excuse me. So whichever way we look at it, whether it's faith in a given religion, or faith in ourselves, or faith in a project, faith plays a great part in our lives. I don't think people really sit down to stop and think. The first thing that comes to mind when people say faith is religion. Straight away jumps out. But faith, if you're taking on a task, taking on a major project, starting up a new business, starting a new job, it's having that faith and that confidence combined. And really, confidence and faith, I think, go hand in hand, in my opinion. And the two are intertwined. You can't sort of separate the one without the other. So faith does have a great hand in the self-confidence that one has in themselves, in whatever it is that they're going to try and set out to be doing or are doing. And low self-esteem, low self-confidence, again, brings it back down to low faith. So when you have faith, that strengthens you in more ways than you realize. It strengthens your inner self. It strengthens your inner confidence. Therefore, it gives you, far more strength outwardly as well as inwardly, in my opinion.
Absolutely. The first thing that Dr. Hill and I bonded over because it's sort of funny how we got started. He was thrust on me by my boss, who'd hired him to be my friend, mentor, etc. Uh, and I wasn't quite sure, could I trust him? Did I need him? It wasn't like somebody saving a drowning man. Maybe he did, but in the beginning, I didn't understand that. Uh, I gave a talk. I used to give a talk. It was my themed talk called I Am, I-A-M. And the theory being that anything that follows I am, if you say it often enough and strong enough and so on, if nothing else, tricks the subconscious mind into believing that's what you are. So I taught it rather than goal setting, goal claiming. I don't want to be rich someday. I am a millionaire now. Specific, measurable, attainable. And Dr. Hill heard me give that talk, and on the way back to California, or maybe dropping him off in South Carolina, I really don't recall. He said, we are much more tuned than I realized, because I don't think I am is mentioned specifically in Think and Grow Rich or the Law of Success. If it is, forgive me. It's been part of my life so long, I don't remember where it came from. But the sheer power of I am is what bonded us. And I remember thinking, oh, he's not trying to convert me. I'm not trying to be defensive or convert him. However we got there, and from whatever different ways, we have come to the same conclusion. So that was our first psychological bond, was I am and its sheer power. And that's faith too. I'm not one of those who believe if I say I am, it's done, I can go on about my business. I am must be followed by focus and action and integrity and so on. But that's a tremendous part of I am and faith. And then, if we have time, Dr. Hill explained to me that he had drifted a bit from his religious principles over the years. And then he created or gathered up from lots of places. It's in the Bible and in some forms, the mastermind principle. And he said what brought him back to a faith-based belief was watching the mastermind in action. His belief being, or came back to being, God created these individuals, and when they get together, they create another individual, the mastermind, the third mind, or the 13th mind, or what have you. So, but he came to it more, or came back to it more in a practical sense. It works.
Excellent, excellent. Listen, guys, those of you that are watching this video now, can you just make some comments below the video as regards what's your views and thoughts on faith and fate and faith? So what is your thoughts on this subject? We'd love to hear from you, because as we sort of roll out more and more of this Think and Grow Rich Applied, we want to hear more from you. We want to engage more from you, so we can then continue to create more content relevant to your questions, relevant to where you are and what it is that you're searching for, what are the answers that you're searching for. In addition to that, I will reiterate the fact that once we've completed this course, we will be picking 12 people from around the world who myself and Ben are going to coach and mentor for a duration of 12 months. So these will be 12 individuals from different parts of the world. They could be from Africa, Afghanistan, from China. It makes no difference. So we're not picking people just from the West. What we don't want is people to say, well, it's fine, you're in the West, and in the West you get all these opportunities, yet I'm in Africa, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the Sahara, and we don't have those facilities, we don't have those sort of opportunities as you guys do. So we're going to give everybody an equal opportunity, a level playing field, to be able to help them to move themselves and move their businesses, if they already haven't got one, to the next level. So they and yourselves really need to start making comments, So we will only pick the 12 people who have actually gone through the whole entire Think and Grow Rich applied, what Ben is sharing, what I'm sharing with you, and also any comments that we get from you guys. So don't hesitate at any time through the video. Just leave comments down below. That's going to help us to develop the course more aimed at you guys rather than what we want to try and put out there. Ben, what's your views and thoughts on that?
Well, I think you just described the perfect mastermind group, people coming together from different backgrounds, different countries, different situations, and pooling. We will help them pool their thoughts and get the best from each person out of it. And I don't care where you are, what your situation is, it is certainly more difficult for some people in some situations, but that doesn't make it impossible. There is no one on this call or on this webinar who hasn't had more money than I've had on several different occasions. Donald Trump was talking about coming out of Trump Tower, I guess, or one of his office buildings in New York, and the guy said, "Buddy, can you help me?" And he gave him $5. And he said what the guy didn't realize was his net worth, the bum's net worth, was greater than Donald Trump's. Because the bum, the homeless guy, call him what you will, wasn't $5 billion in debt. So
I remember that.
he said,
I actually remember
yeah,
that.
he said, I'm giving him $5. He's worth net more than I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that I Am talk, I used to travel around when I thought I was closer to perfect than it turned out I was. I used to travel around saying, you could drop me naked, parachute me naked out of a plane anywhere, come back in 30 days, I would come out fully clothed, owning a business of some sort and on the way back. Well, not too many years ago, I lost my business, went broke, houses repossessed, luxury cars towed away. And a good friend of mine, one of my early mentors, about 15 years older than I am, but when you're young, that's a big spread and experience, heard what happened and called me. And he said, "Ben, you remember that talk you used to give about parachuting, being parachuted into anywhere naked, and you'd come out with a new business and be successful?" And I said, "Yeah, I remember that." He said, "Well, you've got your chance. So check back with me and tell me how you're doing in 30 days. And he hung up. Just this morning, I was writing part of a book that I'm contributing to, and I was telling the story of that being flat. Mo, I drove into this town, Placerville, California, in 1976 and began the 800 call center industry. What a lot of people didn't know back then was I drove into this town in a borrowed compact car with a nickel in my pocket, literally a nickel, and started the 800 call center industry. So that's what about the time that Merle Frazier was referring to when he said, "You said you could do it, naked into the jungle." Well, you're not naked, and it's not the jungle, but let's see what you can do.
But
and I went back to the principles.
Doesn't that come back again to your faith and the confidence that you have in yourself and knowing full well, yes, you might be going out there with a dime in your pocket, but nobody else knows that. It's having that inner confidence, having the faith that, you're not depriving anybody, you're not cheating anybody, but you've got the faith to be able to, make that happen.
Yeah, my mother at the time and my wife suggested I might consider getting a job instead of starting a new business and a new industry. I thought about it for about 2 seconds and decided I'd rather start a new business and a new job. So and I wasn't, people say, well, that, you must be Superman to feel that way all the time. Mo, I'm sure you have been at various times in your life, very concerned and bordering on scared about the potential outcome. But by trading on my belief in I am and projecting it, that's an important part. If people had known how concerned / scared I was at the time. They wouldn't have leased me a house with no money up front. They wouldn't have leased me office space to put the National Communication Center in without any money up front. I didn't lie to them and say I had it. My confidence level made them believe it was okay. And years later, looking back, I said to the realtor, her name was Jan Dowen. I said, Jan, did you know that I had no money when I leased the house and leased the office and so on? She said, well, you know, life has its ups and downs. I didn't really think about it, but obviously, if you left a successful business and came up here, something went wrong, you probably had less than you were used to having. I said, how about a nickel? And she said, well, you know, you probably had very little. I said, Jan, I couldn't get her to believe it. A nickel in my pocket. And my wife, she's since passed away, not Gigi, my current wife. My wife at the time, the way I met a good friend of mine who wound up working in our business, his name was Elmo Eck. He owned a pizza parlor in town. And she bounced a $11 or $12 check to him. And he called, and that's how I met him. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. We'll make it good. I promise you we will. And so on. Then when I went to my wife, Marcia was her name, I said, Marcia, you can't write checks to people. She said, oh, no, it was just $12. And I said, Marcia, listen to me carefully. We don't have any money. She couldn't get used to that. Big house, luxury cars, my attitude. It's just $12. You just write a check and it all takes care of itself. I think her theory was we had money until we ran out of checks in the checkbook. But that was a backlash, a positive one, but a backlash of my I am attitude. I couldn't convince people I was broke if I wanted to. It's a funny, interesting story now, but at the time, if I told somebody I was broke, they just laugh and pat me on the shoulder and go back to discussing the business deal we were about to make. So it can be so powerful that it moves you forward with a faith that most people don't have and moves people along with you with a faith they wouldn't have. So yes, it is extremely powerful. And it all worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember late 80s, early 90s, we set up a venture between myself and a colleague of mine who no longer is with us since last year, Brian Cleaver. We set up a company called Check a Check, which is basically a check indemnity company, you know, for retailers. So you can write a check out for several hundred or several £1,000s, and they would call it through to the call center to see whether they underwrite the check if in the event that it was dishonored, and then we would pay the retailer. Well, there was one American company who had set up in the UK and they had the whole monopoly. And myself and Brian put up quite substantial amount of money ourselves to start up the business, because in them days, just to have a call center, the telecommunication equipment and everything else was, you know, about £300,000 for that. Software, again, an arm and a leg. To have the software written, computers, you could not have a computing power that was big enough to suffice. So we had to have airtime through a third party, and the only way we could do that was satellite dish transmitting microwave dish from our center to the highest point in Birmingham, then beamed across to where the data center was. And you know, this is through microwave technology. So we can share computer time. And all we had in our offices were dumb terminals to be able to gain access to supercomputers at IBM. And, you know, about 9 months, 12 months down the line, we were running, you know, literally on a shoestring, even though we had spent over £500,000. But in the earlier days, when we went to bring in accounts, and again, it comes back to having faith in yourself, having the confidence in yourself and the faith to a greater power than yourself, that, you know, what you're about to embark on, that you intend to do the best that you're able to. We could only sign up small accounts. And I remember one of my co-directors went out to see Toys R Us. a major high street name to sign them up. And they said they wanted to come and check our premises out and see our call center. Well, we had like literally all we had was the management staff in there and probably 1 or 2 people in the call center. So we had to think quick on our feet. We got the local training center for the school leavers who would educate people to get into jobs and placement. We said, look, if we can rent 20 people from you for the afternoon, hire a crowd, pretend they're on the telephone, we'll teach them something. So if there's calls coming through, how they answer the calls and what data they have to put in, there's a chance we'll take 5 people on out of this. So when Martin Goldstein, who was the finance director for Toys R Us UK, came in, and what we did, we said to each person, can you bring a extra jacket with you? So we had 20 bodies, and then we had 20 coats on chairs next to them, give the impression that 20 people were out for lunch. And this is the 20 that were there. So Martin came in, and of course he goes, oh, how many people have you got in here? So half the team is out at lunch at the moment. And of course he bought that. As he came from the main office to the call center, the people in the office were ringing the phones to the call center to make it sound as there's calls coming through. And that's how we signed up Toys R Us. We signed up Mothercare. We signed up B&Q. We signed up major names, but within a space of 3 months, we were trucking and we were taking on more people than we could cope. But, we had the confidence in ourselves. We had that faith that we can make a go of it and it will work. And, it's having those inner strengths. Sometimes you have to be prepared to bluff a little bit. In reality, when you're truthful 100%, sometimes it pays, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, there have been times in my consulting days, when I've been up and down like a yo-yo. I've, like you rightfully said earlier on, I've turned up with an old car and I want to park it way down the street, 3-4 blocks down the road, and then walk up or catch a taxi from there to get to the client. And, things aren't easy, but, everybody makes it through. That faith plays an immense part, that you will achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve. If you have the faith in somebody greater than yourself and that confidence in yourself that, yes, what I'm doing is good, I'm not harming anybody, and I'm doing good, to the universe.
And everybody will benefit in the end.
Absolutely.
If you're correct. When you started talking about a call center, it warmed my heart, because starting the 800 call center industry, the National Communications Center in our little town was the first call center on the planet. Wow. And so not wanting someone to see that the call center was a little old lady, a card table, and me, and a dead plant. For some reason, we had a dead plant on the card table. And I couldn't let anybody see that. And I didn't have first of all, I didn't think of it. That's very clever. Hire 20 people for the afternoon with the extra coats. What I said was, they said, can we come see your facility? I said, no, I'll be happy to meet with you. But the National Communications Center, as you probably know, is a locked, bonded facility. No one can get in. The reason they couldn't get in was I didn't want them seeing the little old lady, me, and the card table. So, but no one ever questioned, and the doors were locked. Somebody making delivery knocked on the door, we confirmed who they were and opened the door and let them in. Nobody just walked into the National Communications Center. To the day it closed, you could get in the lobby, or the day I sold it, you could get in the lobby, but you never got into the control room. And some part of that made sense. We're taking confidential information and orders from people, and other people shouldn't be seeing that. No. But the truth is, they probably wouldn't have noticed or cared. The main reason in the beginning was I didn't want you to see it. And then by the time that it was something I was extremely proud of, and there were 150 people in there at any given time doing things in the office, answering phones and so on, by then, the fact it was a locked, bonded facility was so well known in the community and to our clients that no one asked to come in. And I probably in those days would like to say, come in here, I want you to see something. This is amazing. Because there was nowhere that I've ever been in business more exciting then when the East Coast of the United States came to life at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and 80% of our business, just like 80% of the population, is on the East Coast. So you'd be standing in the control room and everything is, call here, call there, and so on. But at 8 o'clock, it just exploded with activity and calls and so on, and stayed that way as the sun crossed over the United States and out to Hawaii and then into Asia and so on. Stayed that way till about midnight California time. Then it would quiet down again. But it was attitude. I believe so firmly that the National Communications Center was so good and was the largest toll-free answering center on earth, which it was because it was the only one, but was the largest one on earth, that I acted like that. And it transmitted and transmuted to our suppliers and the people who worked with us and everything. They had a certain pride in what had been created totally in my mind.
Okay, just in case you guys are wondering and you didn't listen to the first part 1, chapter 1, part 2, this is not something that myself or Ben have rehearsed or have a script that we're working by. What we're doing is we're going through the Think and Grow Rich chapters and the headings, and we're doing everything on the fly. The reason behind that, because you're going to get gold nuggets from both of us that you would not get otherwise. So what you're getting is real life experiences that Ben's gone through over his years, and myself as well. So we're sharing things on the fly, and I think you're going to get more gold nuggets that way than if it was rehearsed and transcripted like a traditional book. So keep listening, keep putting your comments below the video, so that way we can help you further down the line as we go deeper into the book. So the next section of faith is auto-suggestions. So again, like, when Ben, you explain auto-suggestion, how Dr. Napoleon Hill explained it to you and what that meant to you, and how do you then implement that into your sort of daily routine?
And let me, as a sort of opening to this section, tell you that there are people on the planet, you're one of them, Moe, a partner in another business of mine, Mark Harris, who can do Think and Grow Rich backwards and forwards, and they've actually read The Law of Success. I haven't, nor do I intend to. 1,200 pages, 15 pounds, or whatever it is. I've got other things to do, but fortunately he wrote a cheat sheet called Think and Grow Rich, and most of what you need is right there. All of what you need, in my opinion. But when people who can quote it backwards and forwards hear me talk, they say, well, somebody said to me this morning, where was that written? I don't remember reading that. I said, it wasn't written down. It was over my dining room table in Marin County. And Dr. Hill was probably in his bathrobe, depending on the time of day or night it was. And Dr. Hill was much simpler in conversation than he was in writing. I think when he wrote, there were times when he felt he had to expound and use words I never heard him use face to face. One time I asked him to explain something to me. I forget what it was, but some semi-obscure thing in one of his books. And he said, well, let me see. And he scanned it and handed me the book back. And he said, well, Ben, sometimes in this business, you just have to fill up pages. He was admitting that he used a dictionary and a thesaurus and threw out some stuff that was basically true, but then flowered it up so it would sound even more profound than it was. In reality, he was sitting at the coffee table or out on the boat or in my office. He was a down-to-earth guy who was a man of few words, and when he spoke, you could get most concepts in 10 or 15 words. We didn't have the long guru-student conversations people picture. Among the things we discussed, and I don't know if it was directly from him or I'd read it and we discussed it or whatever, was the subconscious mind and the brain is a computer made out of meat. whatever you put in it, it will accept. It's not judgmental except from your prior experiences in life. So you can auto suggest to your subconscious those things you want it to understand, believe, and act on. And in most cases, I'm told, I'm a high school graduate. I didn't go to the College of Philosophy or biology, but in most cases, the brain cannot tell the difference between a real thing and an imagined thing, between something that it has experienced and something that was told it has experienced, which goes back to I am. I tricked my brain into believing I was president of a large international company and had my business cards printed up. I still have one of them over on the desk about 5 feet from where I am now. So that I was up giving my I am talk in New York, I believe, some big city in some big ballroom. And I really, humbly speaking, knocked them dead. I gave a rip roaring talk. I am was the theme. And when I was done, standing ovation. And up came Bill Patrick, William Penn Patrick, to talk next. And kiddingly, I hugged him and whispered in his ear, "Top that," because I had gotten good. I was no longer just the guy who introduced him. And he said to the crowd after they settled down, he said, "I am so impressed and love this guy so much. I think he will be the president of Holiday Magic Cosmetic worldwide in all our subsidiary companies." And they went crazy, yelling and stomping and cheering and so on. And so Bill said, and this is all from AutoSuggestion, Bill said, "Well, why don't we just make it official now?" And they went crazy again. And I reached in my pocket and handed him a Holiday Magic business card, Ben F. Gay III, president, and handed it to him. I said, "Thank you very much." And he said, "How long have you had these?" I said, "About a year." You know, as soon as I decided I was to do it, I printed up the cards. I wanted them ready when the time came. So you can program yourself and your subconscious mind through autosuggestion, through picture boards. I had a picture of a Mercedes 600, that the 6-door one, you know, on 3 on each side, like the Pope used to ride around in. I had one of those on my bathroom mirror for a year or two. Turns out I didn't get it. When I had the money and went to the Mercedes dealership to look at it, it was just too big and too gaudy and too impractical. Parking it would have been a problem. So I didn't get it. But because the picture was up and I did auto suggestion and made it an I am, I got the money extra to get it. So I won. Then I took down the picture and went on to some other goal that was a little more realistic and usable. But the theory worked even when I didn't do it, when I didn't follow through.
Okay. Now, I think what the easiest way that I can actually try and explain the auto suggestion and imaging is, imagine that you have a computer. Everybody understands that on the computer there are 2 types of memories. There's the hard drive that has all the memory stored on it. Then it has RAM memory, which is the memory that's afloat. That's, you know, that's all the stuff that's going on at the current moment, as opposed to stuff that's being stored on the hard drive. Now, the auto suggestions and the imagination side of it is what is there currently rumbling around. So by having auto suggestions and having things that are in your mind that you're focusing on, keeps that fresh in the RAM memory. If for whatever reason that it's not there all the time, where you actually write it on a board or write it on the back of a sheet behind your door that you can see daily, 2-3 times a day, 4 times a day, unless you keep that in your RAM memory, it's going to fade onto the hard drive. When it fades onto the hard drive, the likelihood of, you know, other things taking and occupying your RAM memory is highly likely. So therefore, the more that you can keep that there, you will then start to connect the dots that you need to connect to achieve your goals, your desire for what it is that you're aiming for. So the more that you think about it, the more dots that you're likely to connect. So the typical sort of scenario, I would always say, if I told you that there was a pink and green Ferrari, most people would say, well, there is no such thing as a green and pink Ferrari. But if I got hold of you and took you down to the showroom and showed you a green and pink Ferrari and took you for a drive, and we came back, and then on your way home, oh, there's a green and pink Ferrari. Oh, there's another green and pink Ferrari. Because it's on our RAM memory, we tend to see more of, we tend to connect the dots. And it's the dots that help you to bring out the imagination to the images that you already have there. By having it in your RAM memory, you're able to see things more openly, and you can connect the dots, and you'll see more opportunities that brings that picture to start to develop from a negative into a positive, then eventually from black and white to color into reality. But you really need to have that focused in the initial stages into autosuggestion. With the autosuggestion goes the imagination. So without having an imagination, you're not going to get very far. In my earlier days, when I started doing the consulting, one of the things that I learned from Dan Sullivan in the earlier days was the fact that how to qualify a good client, a good prospect, into somebody who's not worth spending time with. And one of the things that I learned from Dan was the fact that sit down with your client and ask your client, if you're looking back 3 years from now, looking back on yourself, what sort of results would you like to see that would be for you to tick all the boxes and say, yes, we've had 3 successful years. What are those boxes? What are those things that you'd like to see? Now, he would tell us that if the person wasn't prepared to tell you, don't work with the person, finish off your coffee and leave. There are 2 reasons that he will not share with you. One, he either doesn't trust you, which you don't want to work with the person anyways. And secondly, the person cannot think beyond today. If they can't think beyond today and don't have that imagination, then you don't want to be working with them. Again, both of those sort of people are dead in the water. Disqualify those people, finish up your coffee, adios, I'm off, good luck with your life and everything else. So again,
Have a good life.
Imagination is very, very powerful, how you apply it and try and understand, the people around you. Coming back to the mastermind group, the last thing you want to do is to be sitting amongst people during the daytime, during the evening time, socializing people who are holding you back. So the mastermind concept is so important, because if you have the right people with you, they will help you to elevate yourself to the next sort of level. Their imagination and your imagination, that mastermind becomes the 1 + 1 = 3. 12 people in a room, 6 people in a room is going to multiply multiple times. And the energy and the synergy that you will get from those people, from the cross-pollination of ideas, cross-pollination of industries, is going to be phenomenal. But that can only be achieved by having the imagination to be able to think forward, think ahead. Ben, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, you explained the concept extremely well. Pardon me if I'm repeating myself from an earlier session, but Dr. Hill, I was complaining to him one day after I became president. I was running the company before it became official, but when everyone had to answer to me whether they liked it or not, I was complaining to Dr. Hill about this guy comes in and complains about this person, the legal department complains about advertising complains about purchasing, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, they're driving me crazy. He said, well, are they friends? And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, I assume so. And he said, well, you can't assume so. Have them up to the house for a cocktail party, all of them. Get them up and get them to know each other and so on. I did. I used the same concept with the astronauts in Apollo 15, 16, 17 when I was working with NASA, getting the ground crews, the launch crews, and the astronauts to be friends so they weren't sending an unknown entity up into space. They were sending Uncle Jim up. Therefore, they took better care of Uncle Jim. But I got them all together, and within a day or two, he said, have them in for one of your standard meetings, but change the tone. Now you're friends. Explain to them what the common problem is, and the common opportunity, and have these friends solve it. Well, the legal person, the attorney, Dorothy von Berlingen, would still give her legal opinions, but they were couched in, but how can we make this work? And the purchasing department was saying, that's a great idea. If you did this, it'd be easy for us to get our hands on it and so on. The advertising guy, the marketing people go, okay, well, if we did this and so on. And all of a sudden, these warring factions were operating, I mean, within an hour, were operating like a well-oiled machine, to the point, Mo, that I honestly believe and feel when I form a mastermind group, whether it's temporary for one little thing. Some mastermind groups I've been in only met once to solve a problem. Others have been meeting for years. But whenever I form a mastermind group, I have a little feeling like I'm cheating. I'm going to get out of this group far more than I could ever get on my own, or any one of them could ever get on their own. My job is to gather the right people together, set the tone, and lend them my courage. There's a cruder way that I frequently word that, but I lend them my courage. You have the freedom to do and say whatever you want in this room. Here, you're protected. There are no dumb ideas. Or if there is a dumb idea, we won't act like it's a dumb idea. We'll all nod our heads and go on to the next one. But you create, as I said, Dr. Hill came back to his faith based on the fact that he discovered through masterminding, you could literally create other beings.
Right. Guys, I want to hear from you below this video. What do you use for your visualization? What do you use? Is it mind maps? Is it wall charts? Is it a computer? Is it storyboards? Is it picture boards? What do you use to build your imagination, to build out your plan, what it is that you have a desire for, that you want to, build? What are your goals? How do you put them in a picture format for your imagination to soak in daily, day in, day out? So your imagination is now bringing that to the forward of your RAM memory as opposed to your hard drive. So please, please make comments below the video there. Tell us what it is that you use and how, because your ideas might be a seed for somebody else watching this video who hasn't an inclination on how to do it. So please, the more people that share this, the more people will benefit from it. Right. Okay.